neighbor, this is Curt at eTrailer. Today we're going to take a look at the Yakima Roof Rack with BaseLine towers and JetStream crossbars on our 2024 Toyota Tacoma. Now if you have any experience with a Yakima Roof Rack system, or if you have any questions about it, please leave that in the comments below. We'd love to take your questions and your experiences and use them to help our other neighbors make the best decision for themselves. Now, if you are a pickup truck owner, you may ask yourself, now why would I need a roof rack when I've got this nice big bed here to go ahead and haul and store everything else? Well, if you're the owner of a Toyota Tacoma, you likely bought this truck because you have adventures that you want to go on. There's places that you want to be able to go that other vehicles just can't get you there. And the Tacoma is a very, very popular vehicle for those kind of more off-road adventures. And if that's the case, then you're going to want to be able to carry everything in one trip as much as possible. One of the things that a roof rack can do for you, especially if you own a bed rack like one of Yakima's truck bed racks, you may want that extended bar space if you're carrying, say, like a long canoe or a paddle board, to where just these two or the two on the bed rack just are too short together to really hold it safely. The other thing is you may want to be able to move that cargo forward because you want to pull a trailer behind you as well, and you don't want some long canoe hanging all the way off the back that might interfere with that. As far as work applications, you may have some longer lumber that 4 bars are going to work better for you than just 2. There are load stops available to get with your Yakima bars in order to assist with all those different applications. Now, the crossbars with this system are called Yakima JetStream crossbars. They are aero bars, meaning they have an ovular shape, they're thin toward the back. This is really going to help with wind resistance and keeping the noise down as you're riding along. The kind of noise that, frankly, square bars and round bars are going to give off as you're traveling. You're going to get this long weather strip up at the top. There is a T-channel in here that you can mount accessories into, and you'll do that by removing the cap to access that same channel. You can mount them to the side, to the center, to the edge. The important thing to remember is that these bars have a 165-pound weight limit. Now, despite what the weight limit on the bars is, you still want to check your owner's manual to make sure that your roof capacity can hold that much weight. If your roof capacity is below 165 pounds, the roof capacity is going to be the limit. We are limited to whatever that lower number is. The spread of the crossbars is going to be 32 inches. So from here to here, any accessories, roof box, rooftop tent, anything like that you might want to put up here, you just want to check that that 32-inch crossbar spread is going to be okay for you. And then, of course, if you have the ladder rack, you're going to have 2 more bars to the back that you'll be able to load up with as well. But while we're up here, why don't we go ahead and check exactly what kind of clearances that we're going to get with this, how far to the back, and how much clearance under the bar we're going to have. That way you have the best idea of what kind of accessories you're going to be able to mount up here on the Tacoma. So the JetStream bars in this kit are 50-inch bars. So that's going to give you a total of 50 inches on this track to be able to mount anything. There's not a whole lot of overhang. And in fact, it doesn't even overhang the threshold of the door. So if it's a concern of yours with an overhanging bar of hitting your head, on the Tacoma, you will not. This is pretty much flush right with the door here. So as we're looking at this, we may want to also keep in mind how much clearance we have underneath here. We also have this antenna that we have to be mindful of, which does frankly stick just slightly above this bar. So you may find yourself in situations where you're mounting it to either side of this so as not to bump in or interfere. Our clearance underneath the bar is going to be right at 3 1/4 inches. Even over here under the very center of the roof, we're at 3 1/4 inches. The height that we're going to get out of this antenna comes to about 3 3/4. The height of the bars is at 4 inches. So if you've got something sitting on top of here, if the clamps don't raise it above the bar here at all, you only have a 1/4 inch of clearance from the top of this to the bottom of your accessory. So keep that in mind when you're choosing accessories to go on the roof of your Tacoma. So one of the things you might be asking yourself in regards to your roof rack is, how exactly would I keep this and my accessories up top secure? Well, Yakima uses what they call the SKS, or same key system, where you could buy sets of keys and lock cores that are keyed alike that'll fit in all of your Yakima products that use the SKS system as well. So you'll be able to get a set of 4 of these so that you can lock all of your towers through there. They'll all be able to be unlocked and relocked using the same key. And you could also add cores using the same key to some of your rooftop accessories. So you may have a rooftop cargo box and have that keyed the same as all your towers. That'll help keep you organized and be able to get in and out of everything without any kind of confusion. One more thing I always recommend to anybody getting a roof rack on a taller vehicle like this is the Moki doorstep. Now, you may be able to get up into here pretty easily by using the bed, but there may be also times where you're storing things closer to the front and you just need that extra little level of reach. Well, the way this step is going to work is by deploying it as such. We'll have this little hook here. We're going to hook that right in to the hook against our door here. It's going to create a ledge for us with a 400-pound weight capacity. And we're going to go ahead and use that to step right up. Now I can get myself access all the way to the other side and to the front if I need to, that I wasn't really able to get to in the back. Especially if I have anything on the bars that's overhanging past the cab, that's just going to limit our reach even more, making this a very handy tool to keep in the truck with you, which can be stored very easily. It can even be placed right here inside the door if you like. Now that we've had time to review this roof rack system on our Tacoma, let's go ahead and take a look at exactly how we got it installed. Now, as we're getting ready to install these on our roof, it's important to kind of understand the components that we're working with. There are 3 main components to the roof rack, starting of course with the crossbar itself, which is going to be mounted onto our towers, which will then be mounted onto the custom kit that is really specifically made for your roof. So generally speaking, when you see these systems, the towers and the bars all remain the same. It's how they mount on your vehicle that really makes the difference from kit to kit. So the first thing we're going to want to do is take one of our towers and install our foot pad. The foot pad's going to go on just like this. There is going to be a little arrow here that you can follow. Make sure that's pointing outward, or this notch is pointing on the outside of the tower. This is going to install right onto this little bar right here by just compressing it down until it snaps in. And once we have that popped on, we'll be ready for the next step. The next step is going to be to attach this part, which is going to hold it onto our vehicle frame. And in order to do that, we're going to simply move this aside. We're going to see this piece here. Now, you'll notice that this has a tab and kind of a hook here. What we'll want to do is turn that around and make sure it's facing down. What we'll then do is, through this slot right under here, we're going to slip our hook, make sure it gets under there, and then grabs on to that little hook that we found in back there. Once that is in place, we can close this up, and then we're going to mount it onto our bars. So the first thing we want to do before we get this on our bars is go ahead and remove our end caps. We can do that by lifting this tab and popping it right off, as such. And then we're going to see a little T-slot going through right here. That is going to be connecting through this attachment here. So we'll start by kind of rotating this upside down, sliding it through that T-slot, just like so, bringing it over, and then we'll replace the cap just to make sure this doesn't slide over and come off while we're making our adjustments. Now, when you get this, it's going to be fit for several different vehicle roofs. So Yakima provides a chart, not just in your instruction guide, but also online for you to follow through. Because it's a naked roof, it's going to give us the measurements of exactly where our bars should be placed. It's also giving us measurements of exactly how far apart these feet should be on the bar. And our measurement for this is going to be 38 7/8 inches. So we're going to go ahead and measure it from this bar here on over. 38 7/8 should get us right about here. And once we have that taken care of and settled, the next step is to use our torquing tool that we get from Yakima, and we're going to tighten it down going through this hole right here. Not this one here, but this one right here. We're just going to reach in and tighten that down until we hear a click or a pop come out. That's the torquing tool. You didn't break anything. That just means you've got it tight enough to spec. And there you have it. It's all in place. Our measurements are even. The bars are even from the end. We should be showing roughly 3 inches on each end. That way the bars look even when you're riding down the road. And we're right on the money. Now we're ready to go ahead and get it mounted up on our roof. Now, your bar placement is going to be determined in your vehicle installation guide that you're going to get with your fit kit. There's also a backup table that I found a little bit easier to use on Yakima's website where you could plug in your car and it'll tell you the measurements. But after reviewing that, we went ahead and installed our first bar. And the reason is because we need the placement of our first bar in order to determine where our second bar is going to go. Now, the measurement that we got out of the fit guide for the first bar would be that the very front end of our foot pad here should be 11 inches to the top of the windshield. So we measured it out as such, we attached it up here, and now we can use this to place our second bar. The second bar placement is called for 32 inches center to center from the front bar to the back. Now, a good way to measure that on the front bar is either right in between the two grooves on the clip, but I think a little easier visual to see would be the eye on the Yakima logo. It's pretty much dead center on our tower. So from this eye to the eye on our second tower, we should come out to exactly 32 inches. Now we've gone ahead and measured that out. We marked it with a piece of painter's tape. So the edge line of this should line up with the eye on our second tower. Now that we know where it's going, let's get up there and put it on. Now, admittedly, the front bar can be a little tricky, and any installation like this is always easier with a friend. However, it is entirely possible to get it done on your own. The back bar is going to be a little bit easier because on the Tacoma, we're going to have the truck bed to kind of help us out as far as making sure it's level on both sides. So the first thing we're going to do is kind of set this down here. We want to get our clip over the edge, and we want to get it so that it's pretty much right in the middle there of those grooves, which again is the center of the tower where that eye is going to be. So we're going to get that attached right around there. We're going to go ahead and kind of get our foot pad level as we can. It does swivel a bit to help you out with that. Before we go over to the other side and attach our clip over here. Again, making sure the foot pad is level. Now, the next thing that we're going to want to do is make sure that it's going perfectly perpendicular across. We're going to do that by measuring from the end of this foot pad to the end of the cab and making sure that that measurement is equal on the other side. That way we're going to guarantee parallel bars, which is going to be the safest and most secure way to load your accessories and your goods on your roof. Now that we've got our foot pad seated, and we have a perfectly perpendicular setup between our bars. We're even to the back on both sides, so we know that. We're going to be ready to tighten down our clamps and towers. Now, if you're doing this on your own, one of the things that we notice is if you try to go full bore on one side, it could unsettle the other side. So if you don't have a friend to help you by holding the other one in place, it might be a good idea to tighten down some over here, make your way around to the other side, do the same thing, and just kind of go back and forth and incrementally tighten everything down. And we're going to do that in two different places. So we've got this bolt here that's going to help tighten it down, and then underneath this, we have a bolt here that we're going to go up through and tighten down from here. And we've been back and forth a little bit on this, so I'm going to go ahead and get this tightened all the way up. And that pop lets us know that it's well and in place. We're going to do the same thing here. That one's already good. Before we put this down and we place our tower covers over it. So we're going to go ahead and take our tower covers and get them in place. One quick note though, the SKS replacement keys and locks and things like that, this is the spot where those would go if you decided to purchase them. And the key core would go in this area right here while we've got it open and taking a look. So to put this on, we're going to go ahead and hook these onto these tabs right here. Before pushing it into place. Now we've got that on there and we are ready to load up and hit the road. So there's a look at why this Yakima Roof Rack system will be an excellent addition to your Tacoma for your next adventure. Once again, this is Curt at eTrailer. Thanks for stopping by.